Hey guys, Lucas from iExplore here. Today we're going to do some street photography in Kabukicho with the Z6-III and the 35mm f1.4 from Nikon. Bit of a new camera for me, but we'll see how it goes. But before that, I want to thank everybody who supports us on Patreon. We really appreciate you guys, especially the recent supporters who've come on board. Thank you guys very much. If you do come to Tokyo, we do offer photography workshops here in Tokyo and in Kyoto and Osaka as well. So please check that out on our website. We also have a map of Tokyo photo spots, which is available with over 500 locations. So check that out. And also I sell prints through my website, and I have a book out called Tokyo Unseen, which is still available, although I think stocks are running out. So check out all those things. I'd greatly appreciate it. All these links are down below in the description. All right, let's get on to the video.
iExplore.
So iExplore bought a Nikon Z6-III to upgrade the Z6 II, which is currently shooting me from, in Axel's hands on the gimbal. But we wanted to upgrade, so a few months ago we got a Z6-III and we started using it. We've shot a bunch of videos with it. Past few videos that have been on the channel have been shot with this camera. And it's not gonna be my main camera, but for photography, but I thought if we have this camera, we might as well talk about it and kind of review it, do some street photos with it. We're not trying to be a gear review channel. A couple of you expressed concerns that we're just gonna turn into a gear channel. We're gonna do photography, like for real. I'm gonna do the real stuff that I usually do, but just with the camera that I don't often use, just to talk to you guys about it. I mean, it's a new thing. I think people might be interested. And in particular, in my mind, I'm gonna be comparing this camera to the Z9 because that's what I shoot with all the time. So I wanna see how this compares and like what features it has that are the same, what is lacking, and very big one, how the autofocus works, because it's kind of the most important thing in these cameras these days. So yeah, let's go over here. Let's go on the other side of the street for a second. By the way, if you're wondering why I don't have a strap, which is kind of annoying, my hand's getting tired. I wish I could just let go of it sometimes. But I don't have one because we use this for video, and on the gimbal, the strap is useless, so we don't put it on. And I didn't want to put it on just for this. I'm just gonna tough it out today without the strap. Arigato. Domo domo. Nice. That was cool. And that was a nice example of the AF system. Tracked him perfectly, beautifully. One thing, oh, by the way, I should just mention this. I kind of took it for granted that this is obvious, but of course not everybody knows this. But finally, with the Z6-III, they added the same 3D tracking mode that is in the Z9 and the Z8. And that 3D tracking mode was sorely missed by me because the D4 and the D5 and all these cameras before, the SLRs had 3D tracking. And it's just a fancy name. I mean, Nikon calls it 3D tracking. It's just a tracking mode, right? But in the Z6 I, II, and the Z7 I and II, they didn't have like that mode. They had a different mode that they called subject tracking, which worked a little bit differently, and it wasn't a discrete mode that exists that you can set to. It was part of the wide area AF mode, and then you would like press OK on the back, and you would get this little tracking thing. And the tracking thing was quite large compared to the 3D tracking point. It was much smaller, so you can be much more precise and specific about what you want to focus on, right? So I really missed that mode in those cameras. And that's why I love the Z9. And when I got the Z9, I was like, yes, 3D tracking, the real deal is back. And the AF is amazing in that camera. And this has the same AF. Now, I didn't bring my Z9 today because I didn't want to carry two cameras, it's too much. But I have tried them. I tried them in the same situation, like poor lighting conditions, just in my studio and at my desk in front of the computer. And I was like focusing on stuff and waving the camera around to simulate movement. And in my opinion, the autofocus on 3D tracking in the Z6-III and the Z9, and therefore also the Z8, which is virtually identical to the Z9 in terms of focus, they are the same. I cannot see a difference. I believe that they can perform AF equally. So if just by looking at AF, the Z6-III is on par with the Z9. Now, maybe if you look up some official specs, you will find that it's a little bit different. But let's keep going, because I think, I tried a few shots here, but we'll keep moving. There's not too much traffic, we'll try other stuff. But anyway, if you look up official specs, you might find that, okay, officially Z9 has like better AF performance or something like that, I don't know. But just in practice and the little times that I've tried it, and even now as I'm using it on the street, from what I remember, because I know the Z9 like the back of my hand in terms of like how it feels and how to use it, because I've been using it for like a few years now, all the time, like multiple days a week. I've shot with it hundreds of times, tens of thousands of photos. So I have like a good feel for it. This right now feels the same. By the way, this is like my first time using it for photography. That was brilliant. Focus nailed. Timing, not so good, but that's my fault. That's not the camera's fault. So the big elephant in the room, the big question for me on a modern camera is how good is the AF? Because for what I do, the AF matters. I like to have good AF. I don't want to have to wrestle with the AF. That's always something, and especially in low light conditions, because that's where I usually shoot. Let's do a little reflection shot over here. And we'll see how this goes. By the way, I am on wide open here on f1.4 the whole time, which you've probably seen already as I show these photos. I'm impressed. I'm already impressed. And that's why part of the reason we got this camera for, shooting these YouTube videos is to make things easier, for Axel. So the AF is better, the face tracking is better than the Z6 II. It's just easier to shoot these videos compared to the other, the Z6 II that we are currently shooting with. So yeah, so that's my impression of it after playing around with it a little bit, just in a controlled environment and being out here even just for these 10 minutes already. I like it. I like that the AF is exactly the same, and I feel very confident that it can do what I want it to do, even on a 35 wide open in low light situations. Now, one thing that I haven't seen yet is the files from this. I don't know, this is kind of changing gears to like dynamic range and low light performance in terms of noise and ISO and all that kind of stuff. We'll see. That's less important for me, although it does matter, of course. I imagine this is going to be actually a little bit better in terms of dynamic range than the Z9, simply because it's a lower resolution sensor, right? So the rule of thumb is, if you have bigger pixels, meaning like per the same size sensor, you have fewer pixels, so they're kind of bigger, larger photo sites, quote unquote. I don't know the technical details, but that's the rule of thumb, is that it should perform better in terms of low light, meaning dynamic range and noise performance, right? But yeah, that remains to be seen. But that's kind of less important for me. It's not like the Z9's low light performance and dynamic range is pretty good. It's incredible, I'd say. If this is better, great. If it's the same, okay. If it's a little bit worse, also okay. Like, these aren't the most important things in terms of photography, right? How it handles and how the AF system works are much more important to me in terms of trying to get the photos that I want to get, especially when doing more high-speed things late at night. Now, little things that make the camera different for me, and the one that I'm already feeling, is because it doesn't have the large vertical grip, like a Z9 has integrated. Of course, I can buy a grip for it, but then I find when I did that with my Z6 II, the Z6 II with the grip was bigger than a Z9 with the grip integrated, because there's like a connection here, it just needs to be bigger. And I need that grip. People ask me, why do you use the big battery grip? Or they actually think it's like an option on the Z9, but it's not. But anyway, the reason is that, I've said this before in a Z6 II video we shot ages ago. Oh, hold on, there's a cool maybe shot right here. But the issue is that, and it's kind of hard to show, but you see this part of my wrist here, there's nothing here. Oh, there we go, good light. There's nothing here. And this actually puts a lot of strain on my hand because I have to really grasp it tightly with my fingers. Whereas on my Z9, even though it's a bigger, heavier camera, that bit of, there's more camera there that can just rest against my wrist, like or my palm, and I can actually relax my hand a little bit, not fully open it, but I don't have to clench it as tightly. And so like my hand's already getting tired from carrying this thing just for a few minutes, even though it's a lighter camera than the one I usually use. So, and I knew that was an issue. This isn't like a criticism of the Z6 III. It's just a different camera with a different, use case than the Z9, in my opinion. And again, this is why we get this camera for the gimbal, because the gimbal doesn't care if there's a battery grip. In fact, it's better that the camera is a little bit lighter and smaller. It balances better on a gimbal. Let's shoot a little shot here. Let's use the viewfinder. Oh, on the topic of the viewfinder, this seems to be, in my opinion, the same viewfinder, more or less, as what is found in a Z9 or a Z8. And that's awesome, because the viewfinder in those cameras is fantastic. You can set it to 120 Hertz refresh rate, which means everything looks buttery smooth. You don't see like the frames. On my Z6 II, back in the day, if I was like panning something, I could see like a frame jitter. Not a big deal, not the end of the world, but if I have a viewfinder that doesn't do that, awesome. So that's a huge plus for this camera, that you get, in my opinion, again, the exact same viewfinder. It would make sense that Nikon would put the same viewfinder in here because it's cheaper for them to just produce one viewfinder and put it in every camera, right? Rather than have different production lines and for different kind of slight subcomponents. That just adds costs and complexity to the product line. So I'm just gonna go out on the limb and say, okay, this is probably the exact same one. It looks the same. And of course, it's super bright and super clear, which is I've always loved in the Z9. Has very nice dynamic range. It's very bright, so you can see, how the exposure is really well. Although I'm going to get a little closer and just look inside. Maybe there's kind of a cool, like, Nighthawks vibey sort of shot we can do. There's the chef way back there. Let's do that. Let's get the chef. I'm still just on a 500th 1.4. I could probably slow down the shutter there, but just leave it on 500. It's all good. Okay. Let's go on the side streets here. This is an area that I don't explore that often. It's a little quiet, but sometimes on the quiet side streets is where you get some interesting situations. So something that I'm pretty sure was absent in the Z6 II, again, fact check me on everything here if you guys are really curious, like double check things on the official sources, because I don't have this stuff memorized. But I'm pretty sure that in Z6 II, like there's this display button, and you can cycle through like different pages or different displays of info. And I'm almost positive that on the Z6 II you could not customize what was on those pages. So you could cycle through them, but what appeared on them was not that customizable. Whereas on the Z9, it's like fully customizable, Z8 as well, because again, those cameras are virtually identical. And the Z6 III can also do that, which is great. You can even turn off some pages so that you can have only 2 pages to cycle through rather than the default 4 pages. You can just have less, which is what I've done. On my Z9, I've customized the display quite a bit. You can do that separately for the viewfinder and the screen. This is really fantastic. It allows you to customize the camera more to your needs. And in my opinion, that's really important, because what I look for in a camera in general is the camera going to be something that I'm wrestling with and it's like, basically annoying me and slowing me down and making me do things that I don't care about or don't want to do? Or is it just going to get out of the way and let me shoot? Let's go left here. And this camera, just like the Z9, feels like that. There's less stuff to wrestle with. There's less stuff on the screen. I could turn everything off on the screen if I want. So the screen is, very empty, more or less. I want to say that the customization options are a little bit limited compared to the Z9, but I haven't compared them side by side. From what I remember when I was setting it up, I felt like, isn't this a little different? But that could just be my imagination. But it's very good. And then having said that, also the controls are customizable like on the Z9, but there are a few customizations missing. Like on the Z9, you could customize these front buttons here, these function buttons here next to the lens, right there. You could customize them to do things like go straight to like recall a particular focus mode, which I use on the Z9. I'm usually using 3D tracking, but when I hit that button, it goes instantly to the wide area mode. I couldn't find that in here. Maybe I just couldn't find it for some reason, but I think it's missing in there. And I think that is Nikon just trying to a little bit, let's go this way, a little bit stratify their product lineup. Like the flagship camera has all the bells and whistles, and this is a little bit limited. But that's not an important thing. I'm pointing it out because I'm sharing this information with you guys from my own perspective, but I don't think this is a major like deal breaker or anything. So then one more thing, this does take the smaller batteries like most cameras do. I do miss the gigantic battery from the Z9, so the battery life is not as good, but that's fine. Smaller camera, smaller battery, totally to be expected. But then in terms of why we got this for iExplorer, well, the video modes are more like the Z9. It does like, ProRes and H.265 with the 10-bit. That may not really matter from your guys' perspective as you're watching this, but I care because when I'm editing and I'm doing the color grading, which by the way, I grade all the colors on these videos myself. We don't use presets or anything. I'm quite proud. Sometimes they turn out really good. I grade each video by hand, so I kind of go with the flow for that scene. And I get a little more color latitude on these files, which is a good thing, and I like that. So that was a reason for upgrading for video. So it's better for video, it's better for photos. And honestly, in my opinion, if you ask me like, okay, which Nikon should I get? I'm a street photographer primarily, and I travel and I want to shoot stuff. What's the best camera for me? If you don't need 45 megapixels, I would get this camera over, say, a Z8 or Z9. It's cheaper, it does everything, it's a little bit smaller. But me specifically, it's not for me primarily because I like having the grip, I like the bigger camera, and then that comes with some little other, what's the word in French? Accoutrement? Is that right, Axel?
That's right.
Yeah, Axel says it's right. So, like little attachments and bells and whistles like the bigger battery, the extra control customization, the, what else is there? I don't remember. There was like 1 or 2 other small things, but these are tiny things that you guys aren't going to care about. So that's my feeling about the camera. Let's keep shooting a little bit with it here in Kabukicho. I'll probably mention a few more things that come to mind as we go on. Yeah, oh, and like the double card slot, that was the other thing. Like on the Z9, you get 2 XQD slots or CF Express slots, same thing. Here you have 1 SD, 1 CF Express. I like having them both be CF Express. I think at this point we should all just switch to CF Express. Yes, those cards are more expensive, but on a semi-pro camera like this, they should just ditch the SD card. I get why they put it, because that's what most people have. So they want people to, be able to use their kind of SD cards that they already own. Let's go over here. But, couldn't see him in there because of the glare on the window. All right, maybe these guys. Let's go back towards the busy area. I think we've done the side streets enough. While I blab about the camera, we can go back to the good stuff. And like even in that shot, it nailed focus on that guy. And you've seen it just now on the screen. Like I had to, I didn't get to see it until after I shot it, right? So I couldn't even tell it was in focus while I'm shooting because it happened so fast. But he's in there, it got him in between. I got him with the little tiny focus point in 3D tracking. So that right there alone, the fact that it has the same focus mode and the same focus capability as the Z9 makes this thing, to me, pretty much on par with the Z9, minus those, special features that if you need those, like the bigger battery, which most people don't need. So great camera, love it, but it's gonna live on the gimbal and shoot videos for this channel for the time being. except for this video because, you know, it's in my hands. Yeah. As we're walking, Axel reminded me, because he shoots videos, so he's got a better feel for it than me, and he reminded me that there are a few other little benefits for video. One is also a thing, I think both of them are a thing that was, you know, inherited from the Z9, Z8. One is that when you're recording a video, there's like, you have the option of having the entire frame have like a red line around it. In fact, if I do that, if I record a little video here, you see this red frame appears around the edge of the video, right, like that, and when I stop recording, it disappears. And that's really useful because it's very obvious if you're recording a video or not. On the Z6 II, you just have like a little red dot, which sometimes you can't see from some angles. And on that topic, talking about the screen, it does have a screen that flips out this way, which, you know, for videography, I think this is more useful. For me, actually, as a photographer, I find this less useful because what I really want to do is shoot like this, which I can do with the screen on the side. But on the Z9, it flips out in the middle. I think both of these have advantages and disadvantages. I don't think one type of screen is better than the other. I think they made the right choice for this camera for most people who are going to use it with this type of screen. Axel likes it more for shooting the videos, so I think it's great. For me though, as a street photographer, I prefer having it just stay in the middle and not go like, oh, I'm still in video mode. Missed that shot. Okay. But for me, it's more comfortable to have it just flip out in the middle. I think that's better for photos. This girl's not that interesting. I don't like when people are just looking at their phone. Yeah, and then the last thing that's really good for video specifically is when you're changing, for example, ISO to change exposure. On the Z6 II, it was like just going through steps, you know, and you could see it getting brighter in steps, whereas on this camera, and again, the Z9, Z8, it happens in a smooth gradation. So it brightens up, but there's no steps. It just looks smooth. And I believe that's also true for the aperture. You have what they call power aperture, where it's going to gradually open the aperture to change exposure, for example, rather than seeing steps. That's really nice for video because it just looks much more natural. And me, then while I'm editing later, it's easier to kind of smooth out those changes with some, you know, like adjustments in Premiere, rather than seeing all these steps. So, you know, that's really nice. So basically, it is kind of like a mini Z9, which is pretty impressive because it's, you know, much cheaper camera, more affordable, and also not as big. So they really crammed a lot of the modern tech into this thing. Yeah. And one last feature, for those of you curious why we wanted to upgrade this camera, which we just had to deal with because we're still using the Z6 II for this video, is that on the Z6 II, you can only shoot a 30-minute take at a time, and then you have to stop and recut, and like cut and start again, which is not the end of the world, but it's annoying for us because we have the mic recording separately, so I have to cut that too. It's just more data, more files. On the new Z6 III, we can just do one long take. Let's go that way. One long take, and then it just looks great. Like it's just fine. We don't have to cut. We have to worry about that. It just makes it easier for us. It doesn't really change the final result, like for you guys watching this, but it just makes it easier. Let's go this way a little bit on this busy street. Maybe get some cool moments here. I'm gonna flip out the screen, even though it's on the side, and I don't like that. But I do want to shoot from this lower angle here. I think it's better. Get some interesting characters with the 35. Nice, cool, cool. That guy was cool. Yeah, and I just don't like how the screen sticks out on the side. It just kind of, it's a little, you know, awkward. Again, for video, I get it. For street photography, this is not needed. And then also, let's go that way. I'm also looking, you know, when I'm framing it up, I'm not looking down the middle of the lens, right? So it's kind of weird, like the thing's on the side, but the lens is over there. You know, let's get this kid. Nice. Again, I'm doing these kind of like run and gun style street photos because I do this sometimes for real, but I'm doing more than usual now just to kind of really demonstrate how awesome this AF system is. It's so fantastic. I love this smoky place. Here I'm going to slow down the shutter because there's nothing happening. Nice. That's cool. They're having a little conversation there. Yeah, I like that moment. Oh, and I forgot to mention, like, one of the most important things for me, you probably heard it right there. I was very quiet while I was shooting. I shot a lot of photos. This has a real mechanical shutter, so it's not totally silent. It's pretty cool in the Z9, Z8, where you just shoot with no blackout, you know, for the shutter, and it's absolutely silent. And you also don't have any of the issues of a typical electronic shutter. Like, I can put this on silent mode, and there'll be an electronic shutter. I don't think it'll work quite as fast as the one in the Z8, Z9, where you don't have any issues with like banding and stuff. But I haven't tested it. Maybe we can test it right now, out of curiosity. But I have a feeling when I put it on silent, which is right there, I put it in a shortcut menu. Let's look for some LED lighting somewhere, or some fluorescent lighting. Oh, here we go, fluorescent lighting in this restaurant. I'm on a 500th. So this is not going to be a good photo, it's just a photo. Okay, we took a few. And there's no banding. So wait a minute, maybe the silent mode in this camera is just as good as in the Z9? That would be mind-blowing to me, because that means you can just shoot this on silent with no, but it does black out. It doesn't go no blackout, but there's no banding. So maybe there's like a flicker reduction mode in here. That's pretty cool. That surprised me, because I thought that if they put a mechanical shutter into this camera, that it must have a different electronic shutter system than the Z9 and Z8 have, because those don't have mechanical shutters at all, because you don't need one. Because it's good enough that it just works as though it's mechanical with their purely electronic shutter. This one's a little different though, but there was no banding, which is nice. Banding meaning like these weird like color, like it gets darker, brighter in these kind of, you know, bands throughout the image. It's pretty sweet. Let's try it over here. Just, again, this is not an interesting scene, but I just want to see if it's happening. I'm not seeing it right now, you know. I'm on a 500th. Maybe a little bit in that kind of general scene, because there's more LED lights and stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the mechanical shutter because I don't quite trust the electronic shutter in here. I'm not familiar with it. And I don't really mind the noise, it's not a big deal. But yeah, I'm gonna try this favorite shot of mine. I always like to mess with this reflection here. And then this is a nice challenge for the camera, trying to grab people as they walk by. Yeah. In the vertical position, this way of the flipping out the screen is good though. I like it. It's just in horizontal that it doesn't quite work for me. Okay, let's wait for one interesting person to come through here. That'd be great. Great to get a cool character coming in or out of the, here we go. Sweet. So like, I think I got some good shots, and I mean, I could stay here all night, but it's like gambling, I like to say. It's very addictive. It's like every time somebody walks by and I wait another moment, it's like another roll of the dice where there's another opportunity for, you know, a good moment to happen. And it's like hard to tear away. It's like if I stay, you know, 30 more seconds, you know, that extra roll of the dice, maybe that'll be the time that I get the 777 jackpot or whatever. That's cool. So that's not bad. There's something going on. A little bit too busy. There was something going on there. All right, guys. On that note, we're going to finish it. That's my impression of the Z6 III. I think it's a very, very capable camera. I think Nikon hit it out of the park with this thing. I think if you're looking for a street shooter from Nikon's lineup, this is it. It's probably better deal than like a Z8 or Z9, although I do love those cameras too. But they're kind of overkill with the resolution, so this is ideal. All right, so thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video, and remember always, challenge your eye. Oh, you're still here. Well, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That really helps us out, you know, with the algorithm. But since you're here, I want to remind you guys the different ways you can support this channel. The best one being coming to Tokyo or Kyoto and taking a workshop with us, or you know, me or one of the other guys on the team. That's a huge help. Of course, we have some other things that we offer. For example, you can purchase a map of Tokyo photo spots. Currently, there are over 500 locations on the map, useful for planning your trip in Tokyo or exploring the city. Also, I do have a book out called Tokyo Unseen, so please check that out. And I do sell prints, so if you'd like one of my photos as a print, check that out as well. But last but not least, there is Patreon. Those of you who support us on Patreon, we're extremely grateful, and you know, anybody who's thinking about it, we'd really appreciate that. That is another way to get access to the photo spot map. All right. And last little tiny thing, there are referral links to all the gear and stuff that we use in the videos, so just clicking on those links helps us out as well. And of course, all the other things I mentioned are also linked in the description. All right. So thank you guys so much for watching to the end, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.